DJ Knight here from Nightwing Productions with another new toy review. As anyone who's been watching my channel for a while realizes, I'm a bit of American DJ fanboy. The products, I find them affordable, they work, but for this one we switched over to a Chauvet product. This is the Chauvet Mini 4-bar 2.0. Picked the 2.0 because it has DMX capabilities, and you'll see it comes with its own tripod here. It has some pluses and minuses. This is its lowest position. Pluses, it's really bright. It has a nice foot pedal, very solid. The 4 LED panels have some great patterns in automatic or sound reactive mode, and the sound activity is pretty decent. Some minuses, you'll notice here, one of the lights brackets is slightly bent. That's the way it came. The tripod is a very small format, much smaller than your speaker stands or truss stands, so clamping things to it will be a little bit tricky if you want to add anything extra. I'm not sure how much extra weight it will handle. It's a nice steel tripod, I believe. Might be aluminum. Let's find out. Here is a magnet. Oh yeah, that's steel. So, nice steel tripod. So it'll hold some weight. It's a little bit heavier itself, but again, that's a trade-off, strength for weight. The connectors. Screw-on type connector. Little large and awkward. 4 pins for the lights. I believe it's 3 pins for the data. Basically foot pedal, DMX. On the backside is DMX as well. Overall though, the reason I was attracted to this system, I'd like to get one or two of these. They really do light up an area nicely. Right now I'm planning to put one behind the DJ booth and the future one on either side, maybe one behind as well, linked together. The price on this is quite a bit less than the American DJ variant. I picked these up for around $250 online, so do some hunting, you can get some good rates on them. And power linking, I don't really see that being useful since it's hard to mount things on the tripod, although we'll see where that goes. DMX in and out. There's your power in, microphone, sound sensitivity knob, and that usually on most products I turn this all the way up and leave it all the way up. Not on this one. About halfway is good, unless you want a spastic light show, which I think is great because again, anytime you're maxing out a dial, it's less than optimal. A little closer here for more detail. Hard to make out on the camera, but you have a standard LCD display. So your menu, you have auto, speed, 55. I set it for 55, that seems about right in auto mode. 100 is slowest, 1 is fastest, a little bit different than normal. Sound reactive, 512, you can set your DMX channel. I find it doesn't always stay where you set it, so that might be interesting for some. I don't really plan to use this in DMX, the foot pedal programs do a good job. And that's it. Nice, short, easy menu. Foot switch plugs in here. Actually, the marker and the plug don't line up. A little strange. I'll unscrew that and show you. A 3-pin plug. So I'm imagining it's basically DMX, although I'm not sure on that. Well, I'll fuss with that off camera. It is a little tricky to plug in. There's a notch, it only goes one way. In a dark venue, that could be a bit tricky, but still good for the price savings. A few other features here. You'll see the lights have ventilation holes on the back. Not for outdoor use, unless of course you know it's covered, it's in a tent, good weather, but not for outdoor use as per the manufacturer. The knobs are nice, good and grippy for loosening and tightening. Aim is very flexible. The cord does get caught a little bit on the knobs up top here when you flex it back and forth. Again, for the price point, not a complaint. The housing itself, extruded metal, the ends are open, and the reason for that is it comes with these brackets. So you could put this upside down on the floor, or you could put a clamp on there and hang it from trussing. So that is a nice flexible point. Again, it does hurt it being weather safe, but it's not an outdoor light, so whatever. back out here and I'll plug it back in and we'll light it up. One other point I wanted to cover was the actual size of the unit. It is called the Mini 4-bar. Total, let's see if we can do this one-handed. The bar itself is 32 inches wide. From light to light, add a couple inches, 34, 35 inches. So it is definitely a compact, high-effect light. Here we are with the light in automatic mode. I have it set for 55 speed out of 1 to 100, 1 being fastest, 100 being slowest. And that is set on the back panel LCD. So you'll see it goes 3 different colors. It does some nice putting different colors up at the same time. Also flashes and in general pretty nice auto mode. I don't see any fades in auto mode. Little interesting there, but nonetheless this works well if you're doing a production gig or music's a little bit too quiet for sound mode. Something very strange about auto mode though is once you turn it off of auto mode onto sound reactive mode, blackout, or any of the different modes using foot pedal, I don't know of a way to get back to auto mode except for unplugging the unit and plugging it back in. Not so happy with that, although I don't really plan to use auto mode much, so not an issue for me, might be for you, just to let you know. Here's the foot pedal, only 2 pedals. Pedal 1 is program, pedal 2 is blackout. I'll hit blackout here, obviously blackout. Go back to program, and you start with all white. Again, no way to go back to auto mode. Tap blackout 2, 3, 4, 5 times, doesn't do anything. So program 1 is all white, program 2 is red, program 3 green, 4 blue, so on and so forth, the different color mixes. Finally you get to, I believe it's program 6 or 7, is flashing through colors. Back up here to give you a better view. And just so you know, these are pointing up at the ceiling at an angle, too bright to look directly into the camera with. Even at an angle you still see some ghosting there. And the last programming mode is a nice slow fade. This is probably my favorite. I'll use this a lot for dinner hours, things like that, just to have something interesting out, other than sound active mode. Sound active, a little creative how to get to it. You step on both pedals simultaneously, and then you're in sound active mode. Put some music onto this later, but you can tell it is pretty beat sensitive. Well, that's not subwoofer, that's just me hitting my hand on the table. So I'll switch it back into the quick fade. It is slightly awkward that there's no way to switch modes other than possibly using DMX with the foot pedal other than switching through the modes live. So if you're trying to be subtle and go from sound active to fade, not going to happen so much. But again, you get what you pay for. So here we are at full height, very close to the ceiling in a room with a standard, I believe it's 9-foot ceiling. And you'll see down at the bottom here, we run into my one major complaint about this light, which is that the included IEC cable isn't long enough to reach the floor. So trying to keep your cables clean and concealed becomes a little bit tricky when you have to have a cord plug right in the middle of your stand. Not a fan of that. I'm sure I'll find an IEC elsewhere to plug into it, but that wasn't very well thought out. I've also added these Velcro wraps, trying to keep things clean. Without them, well, this could be a mess really quickly. You will see there's a nice metal pin here. Could have been black, but I see this color is not going to fade or scratch or anything. And there's also a note not to over tighten this as it could damage things. I'm not sure what it's going to damage, but again, nice they made a note of it, but a shame it needs to be there. So full height is pretty high. I'm 6'3", and it's a couple inches above my head. So there's a look at that. Here's a light with our screen from DJ Screens hanging in the background. You'll see it does very nice, even, clean washes, concentric circles. The video does do them decent justice. There's not quite as much of a aura around that part as you see here. It's more of an even fade. Although, there's definitely clean, clear circles with soft edges here. It's going in auto mode currently. I'll switch it over to sound reactive now. So here we are in sound active mode. quite like the process it goes through. See, it changes through colors nicely, responds to the bass very cleanly. And again, this isn't turned up all that loud at all. And the sensitivity knob set at about 50% sensitivity. One strange thing when you do switch through modes with the foot pedal, the LCD on the backside still says auto. So, not sure what that's about. Again, not really an issue, just a strange observation. Overall, though, I feel like you're not going to wash an entire room with this, but the light that bounces off, you see on the ceiling in here, no other lights on in the room, sun's mostly down. So, it's definitely a very adequate light. 2 or 3 of these would be quite impressive together. So I tried to do some due diligence here with DMX, just so you could find out what it's actually like. Hooked it up to the American DJ RGB3C, thinking it's an RGB wash fixture. Hey, that should work, right? Not so much. Looking at the DMX profile here, you'll see it's a 15 channel, and it's only 15 channels, so not a lot of flexibility there. Channel 1 selects operating modes. With the RGB3C, since you can't tell channel numbers, really hard to pick one. Channel 2 is Master Dimmer, Channel 3 is Master Strobe. Channel 2 and 3 have no effect on Channel 1, only the later channels we are selecting the colors and intensities for each individual pod. So, RGB3C, not so much. I have hooked it up to the Chauvet Obey 10, or Chauvet Obey 10, and you'll see the different patterns. There's number 1. Still, it's hard to pick the different ones. Not a huge fan of that, but it's something. Number 2 is Master Dimmer. Without that, you can't turn anything on. 3, 4, 5. Actually, I'm sorry. Yes, 4, 5, 6 is RGB. 3 is strobe. The strobe mode is nice. I'm not sure how often I'd actually use it, but being able to do full strobe with an RGB fixture has some possibilities. So that is one plus for the DMX. Unfortunately, using the Obey 10, I can turn on 2 of the pods, then have to switch to a different page because it's 15 channels. Not so sure how really needed the master dimming is, since each individual color has its own dimming channel. Not sure on that, but altogether it is DMX workable. I would much recommend to use this on a Show Express or a My DMX 2.0, something of that nature. Just too many channels and a little cumbersome for a hardware controller. Shame it doesn't have first 3 channels dedicated to RGB, or I could have some really use for it. That would be great if you could use the programs on this, along with my uplights. Not so much. Just to put things in perspective, I brought the Mini 4-bar outside. And on the backyard, not too bad. Of course, the iPhone 4 camera is not doing so great, but turn it on white and overall, pretty bright. If you're doing an indoor gig, maybe a high school gymnasium, if the lights are out for the most part, this will light up the room pretty well. For this outdoor area, where I have a lot of cookouts and whatnot, I'm impressed. So, light output overall, in darkness, pretty good. The angle beam, hard to guess, I would say 30 degrees maybe less, 20, 30 degrees, but overall, not bad. One final note, the light does come with a nice set of bags, one for the tripod, one for the light with the pouch on the side for a foot pedal. They're certainly not Ariba cases or Gator cases, they're a little bit lighter duty than that, but if you don't throw the light around, it should be just fine for you. So, in summation, I've never given a bad review before. I hate to start here, but between the small format tripod that's not going to work with my other lights and clamps, the bent metal bars here, or brackets rather, the general plasticky, rattly, cheap feeling of the lights, the awkward plugs, the awkward DMX, the awkward foot pedal with no return to auto mode, the short power cord. I can't give this a good review. I'm not going to give it a bad review because there is a price break versus other brands. And it is strange how you get circular light. I'll go up to the ceiling here out of square light pods. Haven't exactly figured that one out yet. But I would give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars or on a star rating system. If you're strapped for cash, yeah, it'll work for you. But overall, it just feels like the construction, it feels like a China-made light. It doesn't feel like it should be representing the Chauvet brand, which up until now I've gotten some good equipment from them. So here's hoping this isn't a sign of the future for the brand. It's creative. It came out before the American DJ variants, which from what I've heard are a bit higher quality. But overall, I can't really recommend it unless you're strapped for cash. Practice and enjoy.